Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming.
Hey, this is Steve Team Table Warway.
And joining us this week on the podcast, fellow 2nd Company 1st Legion member, Aaron Wisch.
Hey everyone.
And welcome to The Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast, where our aim is to provide Dark Angels players with the tactical and hobby skills that they need in order to compete and enjoy in this wonderful hobby of ours. All right, so we got a special guest.
Yep. Aaron is another member of Table War Hawaii, joining us from the Big Island. Aaron, what's up, man? How you doing?
Taxes.
Yeah, I finished
taxes
mine last
and beer.
week. I think taxes and beer. You need beer after you finish the taxes. So
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what this is.
That is what it is. So Aaron, once again, is another member of Table War Hawaii. I've known Aaron for, God, it's been like 10 years, probably.
Over a decade.
Over here. It's been a while. It's been a minute. Probably in the early 2010s.
2013, or I think, when I left Oahu.
Yeah. So I remember you had your little tiny, dachshund puppy named David that you brought to the game store, and now he is an old elder statesman dachshund. So
he's a pimp.
That's true. I stayed at Aaron's house when we went over to the Big Island for a tournament a couple years ago. Anyway, and so Aaron is a accomplished, dedicated Ravenwing player. So that's going to be our core conversation today. But he's agreed to stay with us through the whole normal format of the show. So might as well just kick right into it.
Right. So we always kick off, Aaron, with the new releases. So there's only two sort of new releases for Dark Angels, potentially. Mostly for Horus Heresy, not for 40k, but they were kind of neat. There are these Loyalist Overseer console and the Loyalist Herald console. And we bring up the point that they're the Loyalist ones because you know how people like to point out that Dark Angels are more traitor than loyal. Well, no, the podcast, we're talking about the Loyalist models, not the traitor models. So very clearly, Dark Angels' loyalty should not be questioned. All right, see how we did that? So this Overseer console, he's basically a Space Marine commander in charge of normal human infantry. Is how he's described. So if you ever had, you had a buddy that you played doubles with and they played Imperial Guard, you could get this guy and throw him in there for some, coolness factor of like, oh yeah, see, my general, my captain is this guy that in Heresy is like in charge of normal.
In the Heresy, the Space Marine legions had unenhanced human auxiliaries, right? Or they didn't draw those from the Imperial Army?
Yeah.
Or was like...
Well, this looks like it's kind of like that. Like they're kind of like they're there to make sure that everyone. They're kind of like a Space Marine commissar. It looks like from the model description. Like their job is to make sure that the auxiliary and the militia meet expectations, and their orders are followed, and the guardsmen stay in line. So. They're a liaison between the Space Marine commanders and the regular human infantry. So if you do, because I know there was somebody that I think we talked about some podcast before, but there's like some like Reddit 4chan thing where the guy was like, my buddy and I used to play guard in like Terminators, and he would always deep strike in and save me, and then my buddy died and his wife gave me his army, so I still play that way, so that way my buddy can still come save my backside even in death. And it's like,
that's cool.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. So this is the guy. This is the model you need if you're doing that. This is the guy to do it with. All right. So that is the new releases. And then the Herald is just a dude with a cool banner. So everybody loves banners. We got to have cool banner, backpack game, chop off the top of it, put Dark Angels
maybe
cool
he's
stuff on it.
Maybe he's a good Blade Guard Ancient or something like that. I don't know.
Yep. So
I like that bionic leg there.
Yeah. So and he's got that. His the hand is strong with that power fist. It's pretty dope.
I'm gonna pull this in here so that way it's all lined up for the post edit. But here we are at. So we've got. Can everybody see? We're all good.
Yep, good to go.
Sweet. So we've got the Meta Watch for sort of late January through February. So we're looking at Grelich, Hilich.
It's a Polish name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Company of Hunters, though.
Yep, and we've talked about him before. He went 4-0-1, got first place in a field of 51 in Warsaw at this GT. All right, he's listed called Armored Core. He's running the Librarian in Phobos armor as his warlord. He's got some Outriders, 3 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, 2 Lancers, an Infiltrator squad, 3 Invader ATVs, 2 Repulsor Executioners, a Scout squad, and 2 Vindicators.
So he's running his Iron Storm, basically. He just wants the advance and shoot.
Yeah, use the advance and shoot, and then you can do some shenanigans with the invaders because those are really the only thing that have the Ravenwing keyword to maybe be able to like pull one into reserve and pull it back someplace else. So, yeah, being able to advance and shoot Vindicators and is really good. I mean, no doubt. So, oh no, he's got 1 Outrider squad in there. He does have 1 Outrider squad, and that'll be battle line. Yeah. So, anything else to say about this, Aaron?
Well, okay, so Ravenwing unit. I think flyers get the Ravenwing keyword.
They do.
And just flyers and bikes, right?
Yeah, flyers and mounted.
Okay. I didn't see the list if there's any flyers in there, but
there's no.
No.
Okay. Yeah,
3 ballistas,
flyers.
2 gladiators, the 2 repulsors, and the 2 vindicators. It's
Yeah.
a lot of heavy shooting. A lot of heavy shooting.
It's pretty much it's just an alternate to the Iron Storm. Sure.
Interesting that he's got Gatling buggies instead of the melta buggies. You suppose that's a model limitation or like an intentional choice?
Maybe the meta he's in is more hordy because a Gatling buggy could, or he might be using it to just delete little utility units. You know?
Yeah, so he'd drops them out behind something and then shoots up your recruit screens, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, your little 5-man aspect warrior squad or something like that. Because the multi-melta has 0 chance of deleting one of those, but the Gatling cannon can delete little utility units pretty easily with the number of shots it gets. So that's the only thing I can. Or he's in a horde meta. That's one of the 2. You know.
Okay.
So that's what he's rolling with. And then next we have Jay Barnum. I know we've had him on before, and he has to come in and save me once again. We were talking about that earlier. So he's running Space Marines, or he's running Dark Angels. He's got the Gladius Task Force, and he went 5-1, got 17 out of 202 at the Beachhead Brawl 2025 in Bournemouth, England. So we're looking at the Lion Dad, Azrael, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, Intercessor Squad, 2 Deathwing Knight squads, Infiltrator Squad ×2, Inner Circle Companions, 2 Vindicators, and a Whirlwind.
So I think clearly here, Azrael goes with the Inner Circle Companions. The Lieutenant with Combi Weapon is there to help screen for the Lion. This is pretty standard Gladius tech. The only interesting thing here is the Whirlwind. And again, I think, Whirlwinds are expensive. And with the having to hit only on 4s when they go indirect, that's tough.
Yeah, Whirlwind and double Infiltrator might be a little overkill. You probably could have saved those points and put them into something else,
I mean, I definitely do like Infiltrators, but the double squad Infiltrator is...
Yeah.
I will say...
you could screen most of your backfield with a single squad, and then if you had them and then traded down to a squad of Intercessors, save 40 points, and then take the points of the Whirlwind, then that's like 200 points you can do something good with. But, I mean, he did well with it, so...
Yeah. I mean, interesting to note that there's no scouts. So I think maybe the Infiltrators are the second unit of scouts, because... So even though they don't have a scout move, right? In Gladius, maybe if you want to, you can advance and charge them, right? And I've had a lot of success with scouts and infiltrators, stuff like that. Now that their close combat weapons are -1 AP, being able to push forward into those light skirmishing units and clean them out on turn 1.
Have you guys seen we can talk about it later. Have you guys seen the Warp Hammer math, something like that on YouTube?
I think so. Yeah, he's like a math teacher or something.
Yeah, he did a real good video on Deathwing Knights. That was very.
Oh, I did not see that one. I saw his one on Sternguard. But
yeah, we can talk about it later. I don't want to get off
okay,
topic. So
sure.
Yeah, that sounds cool though. All right, so that's what he's got there to go 5-1. All right, and then next we've got Alistair Helm. He was running Stormlance. He got second place, going 4-1 at Warzone Wellington. It was 5-round, 44 players in Upper Hutt, New Zealand. He's got Friendship Ended with Gladius. Stormlance is my new best friend. So he's got the Lion, Azrael, Samael, the Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, Assault Intercessor Squad, Regular Intercessor Squad, 2 Deathwing Knight Squads, Infiltrator, Outriders, Scout Squad, Storm Speeder, Hammer Strike, and 2 Vindicators. So Vindicators are pretty strong through these because we've seen them in the first 3 lists. We've got 2 in each, so no more, no less. The number will be 2.
I've seen like, I don't know. I've got one Vindicator. I've had it for 20 years. It's a Forge World conversion kit for back when you had to do that to make them out of rhinos. And I refuse to buy another one because I'm 98% certain they're going to get legended in 11th edition.
yeah,
So, and I would
all
recommend
that rhino chassis.
Yeah. Other than the rhino itself, I'm pretty sure everything's. Now that being said, I'm interested to see what the Primaris version of a Vindicator is.
Yeah, I mean, if they get rid of all the firstborn, there's no reason to have rhinos anymore other than chaos, right? So.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
What do you I know you and I, Aaron, have had chats about Samael before.
Yeah.
And you think he's suboptimal compared to the Ravenwing Command Squad?
I think he's good. The problem is the Ravenwing Command Squad is just insanely good. So that's the problem, right? I think especially he got buffed too, and I love the sustain hits too. If you can get him into something,
Yeah.
I think the best way that I would run him now is with a single 3-man squad of Outriders, just to get the damage bonus.
Yeah, and also that makes him a little more the squad a little more durable against the 3 damage shooting.
Easy to hide. You know, and cheaper than taking him in a Black Knight squad. Black Knight squad's great, but I don't know that he's the guy you want to throw into vehicles anyway, although he'd be good into that too.
Yeah, the sustain 2, when it goes off, when he's got anti-vehicle 4+ is great, but
with that plus 1 damage, yeah, he's so good against elite infantry with that,
And in Gladius, like, I guess when you give him, well, the Outriders give him +1 strength as well, so now he's strength 7, so he can punch down on things on like strength 6 stuff
T6,
like Thunderwolves.
Yeah,
and especially when you do the +1 to wound, and that kicks him up to AP4 if you're in the right doctrine.
He's a base AP3. I think he's base AP3.
He is base AP3.
Yeah. Which is rare.
Yeah, it's So I'm a fan. I do like him, but
he's definitely good. Like I said, I mean, I think I think he's good with an hour squad, but I think it was a little bit cheaper. And I think that's what he's doing with him here. I think he's running him with that 3-man Outrider squad.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot else to do with him here. Other place to put him.
So he's Stormlance, right? Yeah, it's Stormlance.
Yeah. Okay. So everything's advanced in charge all the time. So, he's got +1 to wound. Sorry, I was thinking Glass. Because it's a mounted squad, he does have the ability to give them +1 to wound.
Right.
Because there's a strategy that
-1 to wound and -1 to hit on defensively.
As a defensive buff, yeah. So, I also want to comment that this is the first time in a long time I've seen a Storm Speeder Hammer Strike in a list. That's the one that strips cover. Yeah.
But when you think about it, the way the game is these days, stripping cover and getting an extra AP is almost the same thing.
Basically the same thing.
Because cover is so prevalent everywhere.
Does the Hammer Strike have a restriction on the target? Like, the Hail Strike is only infantry, right? And the Thunder Strike is vehicles and monsters. Don't know off top.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head because I used to run it a lot. I mean, because I love the little Melta blop.
Yeah, it was my fave in ninth edition, but
it died so quick because you had to get so close.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Storm Speeder Hammer Strike. No, it's just enemy unit cannot have the benefit of cover.
Yeah, so it works
That's
against more targets. So
Yeah,
I think
useful.
the guns aren't quite as good though. I like the guns better on the one that strips or the one that gives +1 AP.
yeah,
If I
yeah.
remember correctly.
The hail strike.
Yeah.
The hammer strike, it's got the melta and it's got a missile, I think, but
Yep.
it's more broadly useful. And like you said, no cover is effectively a +1 AP.
Right. Most of
So
the time.
most of the time.
All right.
Okay. Next one we have is Ian Clark at Club Champs in Kingston, Canada. 4-1, took 4th place. It does not specify what it was.
Ooh,
Okay, we'll see if we can
I
figure it
must have
out.
missed it.
Yeah, it says Lion Dad. So we got the Lion, we got Azrael, a bike chaplain, a combat lieutenant, the assault intercessors, the intercessor squad, 2 squads of Deathwing Knights, scouts, the 10-man Stern Guard squad, the outriders, a ballistus, a lancer, and a predator annihilator.
Stern
Also,
guard.
the 10 Stern Guard.
Yeah, that makes me think he might be running either what was the Grotmus one or Inner Circle or something to get the because Stern Guard or Deathwing now, right?
Stern Guard have the Deathwing
Yep.
keyword. Yeah, they always have. Well, this is a mixed enough list that it kind of looks like it could be
Lion's
it could
Blade,
be
that's what it's called.
Gladius or yeah, it could be
Gladius,
Lion's
yeah.
Blade. We'll see if I can, see if I also interesting that
he's only got a single Ravenwing unit, so probably not Lion's Blade actually.
yeah, it'd be really weird if it was Lion's Blade. It's a Predator Annihilator, and those I have never seen one of those competitively. It's always a Destructor.
They're good. They just got buffed.
They did just get a buff. You are correct. I don't remember what that buff was specifically.
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head either.
Yeah. So the rule is each time a ranged attack made by this model is allocated to a monster or vehicle, you can reroll damage. Right? And they have the Predator, the turret weapon is the Predator las cannon, which is strength 14 twin linked. And the sponson weapons are just las cannons. So D6 +1. It's not bad. Yeah, we can reroll damage.
Yeah,
I was trying really hard.
Kind of smells like a Gladius to me, but
it does smell like a Gladius to me.
That's why I had to keep my mouth kind of like I was biting inside of my cheeks. Kind of keep my mouth closed. And you guys were talking about Rhino chassis earlier, because I'm like, oh, when I put together the Meta Watch, I was like, oh, there's some Predators in here.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think everyone's got Predators, right? And that's cool. I mean, you can, I used Predators and I have like a Rhino chassis without anything glued on, and I would just like put the top on it to make it a Razorback, or then put the turret on to make it a Predator, and you could make anything out of anything back then. It was great, right?
I did that with my Gladiators. They can all be impulsors, right?
Yeah. All right, let's see. I'm gonna see if I can figure this out real quick.
No worries.
Yeah, I mean, I would love if they don't get rid of all the old stuff, but I mean, I threw out, like 60 bikes last year, and the year before that, it was like 50, 60 Deathwing Terminators because I wanted the new kit, right?
Yep.
And then what is it? Talon Masters, and then all my land speeders. So, I mean, half of my collection has disappeared in the last 2 years or whatever. So, hasn't been.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, it sucks. Well, this list is not coming up. So if we figure it out, we'll go back and edit it again, I guess. But
yeah, we'll figure it out.
You check in BCP?
Yeah, I'm searching BCP, and looking for the name of the list or the name of the event, and it's not coming up, which is odd.
By player name?
I don't know.
Check the chat, Heath. I put the event link that
you did?
posted in the chat. Check that real quick.
Okay.
And
where is
while we're looking at that, I'm gonna take a peek here at Lewis Hirschman. who was at Breaking Point GT at Primal Nerds in Yukon, Oklahoma. He went 5-1. He went 4th place. He was also running Stormlance. He had the Lion, Azrael.
Got it.
Here we go.
Ian's list is a Stormlance.
Okay.
Yeah. And and so that probably means that the chaplain does not have any enhancements.
Yeah, it's interesting with the Predator and the Ballistus in there. Interesting choices, but I guess that's just his fire support for the rest of it.
Yeah.
And the Stern
they have enough
too,
range. You don't.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, so Sternguard and Stormlance, I'm a fan of.
They're actually good in combat.
They can fight in combat real good, especially when they have Azrael attached, right? And they give Azrael reroll full wounds against your oath target, right? So they are terrifying, right? And they have that, and they all have assault. They have assault on all their weapons, so they can advance and shoot.
I was assuming Azrael was in the Assault Intercessor squad, but
I think that might be the ones you could
maybe he can do
what you wanted
whatever
to do.
he wants with them. Yeah.
Well, or
Because
actually, that's a good point, because you could use the because they've already got the ability to. You could they got you can use the blitzing fusillade to give the Sternguard sustained hits because they already have assault.
Yep.
So yeah.
There's a unit that is secretly amazing in Stormlance that no one's using right now, specifically because of that strat.
What's that? Hit us with
it. Go. Let me grab one.
Oh, he's going back. He's going deep.
He's going to the shelf.
These guys.
Okay. Plasma Inceptors.
Yeah, I mean, or Plasma Inceptors. Yeah, because then you get sustained hits on them.
Because they already have assault.
That helps.
That's cool. Right. Interesting. Okay.
And then if you drop them in next to the Lion, when they blow up, they get feel no pains against the mortals from the
also interesting
from the plasma.
Yep.
Also a good point. Okay, cool.
Sidebar.
All right, so
sidebar.
Looking back at Lewis Hirschman, so he's got the Lion in the Stormlance list. He's got Azrael's. He's got Samael. He's got a chaplain on bike with Fury of the Storm. He's got a lieutenant with combi weapon, regular intercessors, 3 times Deathwing Knights, Infiltrator Squad, Inner Circle Companions, and 2 Outrider Squads. Min squads.
Yeah, so the Fury of the Storm, that's the one that gives you +1 AP and +1 strength. And if you charge, the turn you charge, the 5 phase after charge, it gives you 2 to each of those. So that fixes the problem with the chaplain, which is his crappy AP. So then he'll be strength 8, AP 3 damage on the charge with +1 to wound when he's leading Outriders, which is plus he'll be strength 9 because +2 from Fury of the Storm, +1 from the Outriders.
Oh yeah, they stack those buffs. I forgot about that.
That does not suck.
That's really good. That's it's intimidating.
That's so
he's got 2 squads. So he got Samuel with one and Chaplain on the other.
And Chaplain with the other one. Yeah. And so why do you think no Ravenwing command squad?
I think in this instance, to be honest, I don't know. It could be a limitation of models. Is a possibility. I mean,
they are out of stock right now.
Yeah, I mean,
doesn't want to paint the flag.
It's an older kit. I mean, or just be this is what he likes running. I don't. I would think that because the problem is, at least with Samuel, they're basically the same price. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so hear me out on this. Taking the chaplain on one of the Outrider squads and the Sam in the other one, as opposed to the command squad, that gives you've always got +1 to wound on one of them, and then you can use the stratagem to get Lance on the other one. So you have both your squads with a +1 damage buff that can both +1 to wound on the same turn.
Yeah, I think it's good. I just haven't had a chance to play it, to be honest with you. So.
Yeah. So Azrael with the Inner Circle Companions, which is fantastic. There is a distinct lack of fire support in this
Yes.
in this army, because he's got 3 squads of Deathwing Knights and 1 squad of Inner Circle Companions. So there's just, I don't need to shoot when I can just punch you,
Yeah.
Yep.
which is bold. So hey, 4th place in a 52-player event. That does not. That's a good
Leaning
finish.
into it. Yeah. I think if in this kind of list you don't want to put money points into shooting because it's not the point of the list. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I love intercessors though.
Oh
Yeah, me too. I've ran the 1 squad of intercessors at the War on the Shore, and I was really happy with them.
Agreed.
Really
They're
happy
super
with
good
them.
now, especially with
So.
Azrael.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I tried that at War of the Shore too. Very good. So, Oxford on slot 4, 5 rounds, 5 players. Drayton, England. Tom Spicer. He went 4-1, and he took 5th place with his Stormlance. He's also got the Lion. He's got Azrael. He's got Semiel. He's got the Intercessors. He's got 3 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, Incursors, Infiltrators, Outriders, Scout Squad, 5-man Stern Guard, a Hammer Strike, and a Thunder Strike, and then a Storm Raven.
That seems like so much stuff.
It seems like a lot of stuff. So I think part of the thing is Ballistus Dreadnoughts are only 130 points.
They're cheap.
And you can get that's under 400 points for 3 like toughness 10 2-up armor save dreadnoughts that have their own built-in rerolls.
Yeah,
for sure.
To be honest, I've known about that since the very beginning. It's just not my playstyle of 10th anyway. So I have 3 of them sitting on the shelf over here assembled.
I've been thinking about getting another one. I only have the one that came in the starter box.
I just have one.
I've been wanting to get more, but they're so hard to get hold of.
I got 3 sets from the starter box, but I'm sure they're going to go up now though, because everyone's running 3 of them in lists. But yeah, points wise, durability wise, they're so good for the points.
Yeah, for sure. That made that 2-up save, man. That's the difference from a 3 to a 2-up is. Are they T10? Am I just talking out my butt?
No, they
didn't double check that.
All the big dreads are T10. They're the same as the Redemptor profile wise, except they don't have the -1 damage.
Yeah, T10, 12 wounds, 4 OC. I wonder if I've got the old Rifleman dreads, like the Castroferum pattern with the Mortis pattern dreadnoughts.
Okay, like the not the
Deredeo, the old
brick.
Firstborn,
the brick one. Yeah. Okay.
They're Castroferum pattern.
Well,
but I wonder if you just like put 2 of those on top of each other and put them in a trench coat and call it a ballistic. so
always try
because.
Well, I might sell mine, so if you want to get mine, maybe you can get them at some point.
Well, and I think this also bleeds into the hobby, like on the hobby side of it, of whenever things, like new things come out. Like I remember when the Ballistus came out, people were like, it's cool, but...
It's so cute!
Oh yeah, look at that guy.
It's so cute!
Yeah. But people are like, oh, this isn't very good. Oh god.
It's a self-defense weapon as well, if you need
Tread down a sock. There we go.
Yeah. But like people are like, oh, this isn't any good, I'm not buying this. And then within a year, it's now the most meta thing and no one can get it. Like sometimes it's just like, you know what? Just get the things.
Yeah.
Maybe get 2 of them, build them, paint them so that when its time comes, you're already ready to go and you're not behind the 8 ball paying over the odds over retail on eBay trying to get a comp model. Same thing happened with Inner Circle Companions. Remember when nobody wanted them?
Yep, Inner Circle Companions. Yeah. All the stuff out of Indomitus, like everything, like get it and sit on it. Get it when it's cheap, and then sit on it.
It's the new stuff. It's not like the old Firstborn stuff that's gonna go out of print and get legended. It's gonna be viable for the next 20 years. So.
Yeah, well, and think about too Outriders with that update, right? Like you could get Outriders super cheap because nobody wanted them, and now with the update, now you can't get them anywhere.
Yeah, and they still haven't released a decent kit for them. So
yeah, they're tough to put together. Joe is making a White Scars list, and he has just been in Outrider hell for the last several weeks. He's showing just. You have to clip off all the little sprues in the middle that hold everything together. Yeah.
So anyway. I had 9 of them that have been sitting. Whatever box they came out in, I can't remember which big box that was. But I think
it was the 9th edition.
I had 9 or 12 of them that had literally been on the spruce since that came out. I got a bunch of copies of it, and I was like, all right, at some point I'll build these. And I never built them until December, just before War on the Shore. And then I built and painted all of them and didn't use any of them. But still, felt good. It felt good to get them painted finally, you know?
Yeah, moving stuff
That's
off the list is, no, I agree. That's good. So, like, I don't know. I tell you the other day, Bailey, I was cleaning out my office up here, and I pulled a box down from one of the tops of these shelves.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it was
you did.
It was a Canis Rex box. I'm like, oh, okay, I've already built this model. What's up? I opened it up, and there were 2 fully painted Land Raiders in it.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me that.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my god!
And I bet they were ones you've been needing, so you can run that double Land Raider.
Yeah, I mean there were 2 Godhammer pattern. So, and I've got so now I have 4 Land Raiders down there. 3 of them are in Deathwing colors, and 1 of them is in, third company colors. But
at least I don't think that kit's going anywhere. I think you're safe with that one for quite a while.
Just like Terminators, it's too iconic. It's not gonna. So
yeah.
Okay. Let's move on.
Storm Raven. Don't forget that Storm Raven, though.
Oh yeah, Storm Raven. That's still a relatively new kit. It only came out in like 2010. Or so. It was like
right
there.
We say that
tail end of 5th edition.
We're so old.
Fine. Yeah,
15 years ago.
Okay. It was like 5th edition. So I'd already been playing the game for 10 years at that point. So, yeah. Okay.
All right, but because isn't the thing with him is that you take the -1 to hit, -1 to wound thing from Storm Lance and plop it on the Storm Raven, and now
I think it's only because the -1 to hit and wound only works on mounted. Yeah, you can't put it on the vehicle. Yeah. So
what everyone was running it in was Iron Storm.
Right. Yeah, because that's when I knew that was around. And
I hate that model
though. Oh no! One of Depths to start is mounted or fly vehicle. It does work on a Storm Raven.
There you go.
I read that when I was reading the article that that was sort of what the guy was doing. That right, because so now it's -1 damage. It's got the high toughness, the high armor save, and now it's -1 to hit, -1. It was already probably because if it's supersonic, it's already -1 to hit, but it's probably
that's
so
not,
you can put it on
not
the board. Okay.
Yeah.
This is my biggest issue with the game.
It's going back in the list.
Yep.
I just hate that model. It's so ugly.
The flying box.
Yeah, it's the we don't need aerodynamics. We fly by just beating the laws of physics into submission.
Yeah. Does he have
pretty much the same
aesthetic? So he can also put a ballistus in there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
To get it into position correctly. Yeah. So okay.
Yep.
Well, that's going. I was just getting it out. That's going back on the list.
Yeah.
What a world.
All right.
What
So this next list, you must go to the Angels Keep Gerard, friend of the show, Gerard's website to read the name because it's a 3-stanza poem that is epically Ravenwing.
I'm going to assume that it's original work, right? And credit it to Yofon's bow for this event held in Red Bluff, California. So this is the list that we're just going to kind of kick it over to Aaron to discuss. So it's 3 Ravenwing command squads, 1 with Recon Hunter, then 4 squads of 3 Outriders, 3 Gladiator Lancers, an Infiltrator squad, 3 Multi-Melta Invader ATVs, and 3 squads of 6 Black Knights. Aaron, your opinion.
Okay, so Recon Hunter... That's a 9-inch scout. It's good. He's spamming Outriders because they're just solid now, right? Utilitarian and tough, and they are troops or whatever the term for that is.
They're
battle
line,
line
right?
now.
Which is why you can take more than 3 of them.
Right. So he's got himself covered on any of those secret missions or any of the missions that have bonuses for troops.
And this is a Company of Hunters list. This is a Company of Hunters.
Right. Yeah, Gladiator Lancer is abusing the advance and shoot, so it's good. He's got a ton of. He's definitely leaned into the anti-monster, anti-vehicle.
Yep.
And then he's using, primarily, like, to clear screens, he's primarily using Outriders, I would assume. But he could be putting command squads into the Outriders sometimes too, depending on what he's going up against.
Or
like,
you could
if
just
he's
like mix
going
and
in,
match.
right, exactly. If you're going into a list that does not have a bunch of vehicles and monsters, or only has a few, then you would probably want the command squads.
Mhm.
Like, if you're going up against a list that's primarily elite infantry, you probably want those command squads with the Outriders.
True.
Because of the buffs, right? Because of the combat buffs, and it's more useful than anti-vehicle. If you're not going against vehicles and monsters, then having anti-vehicle and monster 4+ is not that useful.
Okay. Well, question here then. What do you think the shooting trade-off is for the brick of 9 Black Knights for shooting versus putting one into the Outrider?
So strats wise, the only strat that's relevant is the +1 to wound against characters that are either in infantry or mounted. So I think it's pretty minimal because you're still getting the shots from the command squad, right? And you can still split fire the command squad into something that's tougher. You don't have to shoot them with the same thing as the Outrider squad.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I like this list. I think it's solid. I love the Lancer. If I was
3 Lancers,
yeah, 3 might be more than necessary, but it's still really good. It's definitely scary. And nothing. And then the infiltrators are just his backline. Yeah, I like the list a lot. I think it's a good list. I would play some. It's similar to other things that I was playing in the past, so I like it a lot. Multi-meltas on the buggies. Yeah. So he's fully equipped. I mean, I actually might think in this list you might swap out the multi-meltas for the Gatling cannons, because then you do have more. He has nothing that would be. I mean, plasma. Plasma's good into everything pretty much. But you'd prefer to not shoot plasma at, whatever.
Trash. Yeah.
5 scout. Well, 5 scouts might be a good thing, but I don't know. Whatever trash people are using these days, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The Tau auxiliary cadre where there's just 40 crew between you and the stuff you care about. Yeah. Just another point here, I think that something I've forgotten about is that the invaders get a free shooting activation.
Shoot
when
back.
You shoot at a mounted unit within 6 inches of them, or 9, or some distance of them.
Right.
And so maybe the multi-melt is there really more for that instead of
that's true.
Actually trying to do stuff.
I've run those so much, and I so rarely, because there's so many caveats to that. Obviously, the range is the biggest issue, 18-inch range on that multi-melta, and they have to be in line of sight. It's just it's so rare that I've actually been able to pull that off, Yeah. But still, it's there as a threat. It is there as a threat. It kind of depends how he's using them. He's got a lot of units, so he can definitely go run out there and do some missions and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's solid for sure.
I think you've also got the option here to everything's Ravenwing. You can do the sticky and objective if you need to put the infiltrators out somewhere. Pull one of the something up into reserve to bring it out later. I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity.
One thing you would lose with the Ravenwing command squad going into an Outrider squad. Also, I'd add with the Invader ATV. You remember the Vengeance had that too, right? Landspeeder Vengeance has that, I think.
Yes, it does.
But it's limited in the wording. It limits it to only one of them can shoot back in a given turn, I believe. But a lot of those shoot back abilities, reactive abilities, are limited to if you have multiples of the unit, only a single one of them can do it. I believe the ATV is worded so that they will all get to shoot. So you can shoot all 3 of them.
So the Vengeance ability is called Storm of Vengeance, and it says whenever a friendly Adeptus, and it has to be a friendly Astartes unit within 6 inches of this model is destroyed, one model from your army with this ability can use it.
Yeah.
So
it's one model from your army is the.
So it protects more stuff in that it's not tied to mounted like the ATV is, but also, I mean, the Vengeance's guns are back when the thing was base 2 damage over and it overcharged to 3, I was a lot more excited about it. But
so the ATV is worded so that they can, in fact, all 3 of them can shoot every turn. So in theory, if you had that, if you're able to pull that off, you could shoot 10 times with each of them in a game.
Yeah. So and not only
theoretically
each one can shoot, but you can get multiple activations with each one, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is you could shoot each one twice. So instead of having 5 possible shooting phases in a game, you could have 10 possible.
And it doesn't. And it doesn't require the thing to die. It requires them to shoot at it.
Right.
So
nothing has to die. Yeah. And they can trigger off each other, I believe.
Because they're mounted.
Yeah. Yeah, they trigger off of each other. So you have them next to each other. Whereas I believe the way the other one's worded, you can't.
So if you just run them in a little unit of little 3 of them, you shoot one, the other 2 shoot back at you.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's interesting. There's probably some abuse that you can come up with for that. But no, like for enemies to have a lot of like glass hammery type stuff, like, hey, I'm gonna shoot, but they have a lot of damage output but can't really take it back. This is really dangerous. Like for things like Eldar. Right?
Yeah, and this is pretty durable too. People underestimate it, but I mean, there's 1 unit of 5 in here that's less than T5. Everything in here is T5, T10, or no, I think 11 on the Lancers. So if you don't have a lot of stuff that's strength 5, 6, you're not you're going to do very well against it, you know?
Yeah.
And there's almost nothing out there you have a lot of anti-infantry, you have a lot of anti-vehicle, anti-monster. There's almost nothing out there that's anti-mounted. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Long may that continue.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and just talk about. So, Aaron, that's a nice segue into your type of play for Ravenwing. So, you've been a Ravenwing main for as long as I've known you. Most of the stuff up there on your shelf is Ravenwing.
I got all Dark Angels. It's probably like, after getting rid of everything, it's probably like 10,000 points of Dark Angels or something.
Yeah.
Like that. But yeah, I've been playing Dark Angels period since Dark Millennium came out, which was the first expansion of 2nd edition. So that was 93 or 94, I want to say.
That's a minute.
Yeah, so I think I was 12 or 13 years old at that time, if you want to do math to figure out how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously for the first until about 5th edition, no, maybe it was like mid 3.5 4th edition, I was just play whatever I had and throw it on tabletop. And then finally in 3.5 4 I started getting more serious, and that's when I started veering more into Ravenwing because it just matched my playstyle more. So yeah.
Okay, so could you go over the lists that you've been playing recently? Like you showed us the one that you did at War on the Shore. I think we talked about it in that episode, but let's just, once again, we got the expert here, so let's go over it again.
Sure. So just in general, I've been playing a list similar to this, if not like nearly identical to this, since basically 6th edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same style and even a lot of the same models, although there's fewer now that we've gotten rid of all the old bikes, that I've been playing since 6th edition. And although the specific mechanics of the game have changed, the tactics and strategies have not changed, right? So I'm still using pretty much similar strategies and tactics to when I was, getting number 1 in ITC back in 7th edition or 6th edition or whatever it was, right? Nice. Yeah. It's just, it's a new edition. There's new stuff, but you just have to learn what's new. So, just generally with Ravenwing, I usually win most of my games in the deployment phase.
Okay.
And the biggest point of Ravenwing is pick your engagements, right? And it's actually gotten harder now that the board is shrunk. It was definitely easier when we had the 6x4.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still doable, and you get to really choose where your engagements are. And I always tell people when I'm like, what kind of list is it? It's, at least now, it's like it's like Eldar, but I'm actually playing Space Marines, right? As far as like it's tricksy, it's annoying to play against, but I get the durability of playing Space Marines, right? But depending on the situation, I'm either hyper aggressive, like everything is in your deployment zone on turn 1, because most of my games are over by turn 3, right?
Oh,
One
wow.
way or another, win or lose. Usually it's win, because most players can't mentally handle that kind of pressure, and they're not used to it because they haven't played against many armies that do that, right? So even very good players, when they come up to a table and if they haven't played against anything like it before, I guess the closest thing to it right now might be Wolf Jail, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Puppy
Um,
Prison.
yeah, but Wolf Jail is terrible shooting, right? And not quite as fast, but they are better in close combat, right? So
Yeah.
there's trade-offs. There are trade-offs there, but something similar to that, but they're significantly faster than Wolf Jail. But then you can also, when I say pick your engagements, like when you're deploying, and I run the Dark Shroud. So when you're deploying, if you can prevent your opponent from getting any shots onto a given unit when you deploy, do that, right? Like just literally take your tape measure out, take your laser, whatever, do whatever you got to do, and just make it so that they are not going to be able to shoot you. It's usually possible to do it pretty easily, even with big units like this. And if you are going to do it, like I'll offer up a sacrificial unit, but put it in a situation so that it's incredibly difficult to kill that unit either way. Like you kill one model and they're out of line of sight, right? That kind of thing. And they're always, we can get more into the details of the list when I talk about how the durability thing, because the other thing is most armies they don't handle a lot of mounted bikes very well, because like I was saying earlier, there is no anti-mounted in the game mostly, right? So let's see. I guess we can get into the specifics of the list. Do you want to?
Sure.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, let me get some water.
Gotta stay hydrated.
Yeah. Well, I just drank a beer, so.
Yeah.
And as Heath likes to point out, it's a lot hotter there than it is here, because it's like 30 some degrees here today. Has been with high winds. I'm sure it's freezing there, right? It's like 70 degrees, right?
Yeah. Oh no, I think it's a blistering 83 where I'm at.
Yeah. It's
Oh no.
I don't know. I don't know where I'm at.
You're like,
it's a little cooler up
I
here
don't know.
on the
I
north.
haven't gone
north
outside
side.
in 3 days, so.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I had to go walk the dog yesterday, but my one of my D&D groups played yesterday. And we sit on our lanai, which is a porch for you that don't live in Hawaii. And it's lovely. So yeah, no, it's usually a little cooler up here on the windward side. Because I know you live in like up on the north coast of Kilauea, so it's generally a little warmer up there.
Me? No, I'm I'm south of Hilo.
Yeah, but that's still like the north side of Kilauea, right? So you're still pretty low down to you're pretty close to the water.
Yeah. I'm 22 blocks from the water, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's like a 5-minute drive. I think it's like 2 or 3 miles total.
Okay.
Something like that. Okay, so the list. I told you my general style of play, my first go-to style of play is threat overload. Just overwhelming aggression. And so that's my first plan when I walk up to a table. But sometimes I'll assess, and it's harder now because I don't have reps. But if I assess the matchup, or I know the specific player I'm playing against or something like that, I can, or even mid-game, if I reassess the situation, I can fall back to being more cagey. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes I'll deploy as though I'm going to be hyper-aggressive and then not actually do that, right? Just make it look like I'm going to do that, deploy everything on the line or whatever. So the list, what this list does is this abuses the Lions 4+ field no pain against plasma. That's what the entire, other than speed and just being fast and aggressive, and it also leans into the vehicle and monster heavy meta we're in. It really just abuses the hell out of the change. And I saw this as soon as they changed that hazardous rule. It abuses the hazardous rule and the Lion's 4+ Feel No Pain. So the list is the Lion and a Lieutenant with Combi Weapon. So that is my only infantry model, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon. Oh, I shouldn't say that. There's a Calexis in here, or Calidus rather. But the only character I have that gives the Lion Lone Op is the Lieutenant, and so they're just bosom buddies walking around together all the time. Yep. And I usually will put the Lieutenant 3 inches outside of my deployment zone directly in front of the line, right? Just because the line moves faster, and that gives the Lieutenant a better chance of advancing and being able to keep up with them.
Okay.
So what the Lion loses out on this is he can't advance and charge, right? He can't advance and shoot. But I also put him in a position where almost always if you're going to charge my squads, he can get the counter charge on you, right? Or it's very difficult to not do that. So you got Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, Lionel Johnson. You got 3 Ravenwing command squads. And because of points, the only enhancement I have is Recon Hunter, which I think is the best one. That's the 9-inch scout move.
9-inch scouts, okay.
Yeah. And again, that leans into both ways of playing. It's if you want to be hyper aggressive, that unit is going to be in the opponent's deployment zone turn 1. 100%, right? This is absolutely, if you want it there, it's going to be there. And the fact that the scout move happens after the roll off. So that's the one unit you can be super risky with. You can drop that on the line out in the open, and if you lose that first turn roll, you scout them behind a building. Right?
Okay. Does the pivot rule apply to scout moves?
I believe it does.
Right? So you basically,
but it's only a 1 inch.
Yeah, so you lose 1 inch for that. Now, another thing I think that I have not been properly playing with this types of lists is the problem I always have with big heavy bike lists is interacting with terrain and driving around walls.
Yeah, it's tough.
The standard GW terrain layout will give you these like L's you can deploy behind, but one of those walls or one of those sides is usually less than 2 inches high, which means your bikes can just go straight through it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not a thing that we have at the store I usually play at. So I've never really, I guess I hadn't really completely factored it into my value proposition on what these big bike squads does. So,
yeah.
Go ahead.
The hardest thing with this list and what helps me is because as far as the movement goes and the tactics of moving and, understanding distances and how to engage, all that is identical to how it's been, through 6th edition, 7th edition, 8th edition, 9th edition, right? So, and the fact that I've been playing almost this exact same type of list since then, it definitely does give me a little bit of a leg up against people who just aren't familiar with it. It's a challenge to move, but at the same time, it gives you massive amount of board control because your footprint is you can take over the whole board if you want to spread out and do the coherency thing. Usually, I'm not. Usually, I'm shoved up as tight to my models I can get. But you have that option, So okay, so moving on. 3 Raven, and this is another thing I do is I go so high into the damage output that my utility is very low, and I just have learned to be very careful with my utility units so that I can use them to do missions still. But if you're not smart about it, you lose your utility units, you'll end up not being able to do objectives.
Win secondary, yeah.
Or you end up having to do an objective with a 9-man squad of Black Knights, which is not what you want to be doing now. No. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we got 3 Raven command squads, Lion, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon. That's the characters. Then we got 3 ATVs with multi-meltas. These are basically my utility units. Most of the time they're either hiding or in reserve, and I'm mostly using them to do missions as needed. 3 squads of 6 Black Knights, a Dark Shroud, and for the first 2 turns, almost the entire army is in range of that Dark Shroud.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Nice.
times it's surprisingly durable, and a lot of times I also use it as bait, because people know what it is, and a lot of times it'll be the first thing they target, but I'll put it in such a way where they have to move in a way that exposes themselves. And if I lose it, it's not a big deal, because that I'm doing missions with. I'm basically using it for a mission monkey. It's just an expensive one, but it does buff all my other units. So if it dies,
So
go ahead.
it can sit behind a wall fairly far up in the board,
And
right? So it's
project
out
out.
of line of sight, and
Yep.
its shadow aura goes out through the
Yeah.
wall, and all you have to do is touch 1 millimeter of one
Of a
base
right.
that's at the back, and the rest of the squad that is 15 inches further forward
Right.
is under its impact. And it's not just the -1 to hit; it's also cover.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
don't have to keep your bikes in those buildings to get cover.
Yeah.
And it's fast, right? And it could advance and shoot. It's
got a heavy bolter, right?
Yeah. But
Cannon,
you're usually going to be using it either to do a mission. I use it for missions a lot, or to as bait. I've used it as bait a lot. And then finishing up the list is 2 Thunder Strikes, Stormseer Thunder Strikes. That's the anti-vehicle one, anti-monster. And then, it gives +1 to wound, right? And then Callous Assassin was my last 100 points. My original list, I was talked into taking the Calidus. My original list was no Calidus, 1 less ATV, and 2 squads of Outriders instead.
Okay.
And our teammate talked me into taking the Calidus at the last minute, so I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. So
having something that can up you downy, I think, is a really nice utility piece.
It's good, but it's
Yeah.
I wanted to run the Outriders, but yeah, it is good. So I just don't have much experience with Outriders. Is a big thing.
Mhm.
So sorry if my camera is jerking. It's attached to a
That's all good.
laptop. So
Cool.
so okay. So on these, the big thing is, like I said, I'm abusing that 4+ Feel No Pain against mortals. So most of the time I'm never losing a model to gets hot in that first round of shooting, because if you really don't want to lose, you can put the first 3 mortals onto the standard bearer, because it's 4 wound models on the command squad.
Yeah.
Obviously you're never putting wounds onto the apothecary, right? That's the last thing that dies other than the character. But you kill the standard bearer first almost all the time, unless you're getting shot by something that's damage 4 or higher, in which case you kill one of the regular bikes first, right?
Yeah.
If you're getting shot by something that's going to kill that banner in one hit, then you put it on the regular biker. Otherwise, it's always going onto the standard. So you're pulling wound shenanigans like that, and then every turn you're getting back a model. So if you're killing that, and you're actually kind of trying, you actually kind of want to kill at least 1 model out of that unit every turn, because A, you're getting it back, B, you're getting extra movement, because you're putting it in front of the squad when it comes back, right?
Yeah, and it can also let you position it to maybe take an objective or get within range of an aura or something like that.
There's a lot of different stuff you can do with it, and it can mess people up when they don't think about that extra, like 5 inches almost of range that you can get out of that. And that's why when I'm going second, I usually want them to shoot my squads at least a little bit, because I want to lose a model out of those squads, so that I can then have that guy, pop up in front of my deployment and get that extra movement. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just another one of those little movement shenanigans. And then so you have almost all the time, right? That unit, it's 12 wounds, and then it's 30 wounds, right? It's all going to be, most of the time it's going to be 2+ save, 5+ invul, with -1 to hit. Right.
And we say 2+ save because it's within range of the Dark Shroud.
Right?
So it's in cover, yeah.
Right. And it's going to have, if you're shooting at something that does mortals, it's going to have a 4+ Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. Right. which there's a lot of stuff out there that does mortals, which is actually, in some ways better, right? I'd rather get shot with some of that stuff. Or a lot of people rely on that, and that's their thing, that they're going to kill those tough nut units, is those mortal wounds.
So they're anti-Death Star tech.
Yeah, exactly. So it is surprisingly durable. You can get another -1 to hit if for some reason you needed it. If you had something that was like a +1 to hit and it was negating the -1, you could in theory give it another -1. You could also pop Armor Contempt on one unit. So it's a surprisingly durable unit. And like I said, you can do all kinds of funky wound shenanigans depending on what they're shooting you with. You know what I mean? If they're shooting you with a flat 3 damage weapon, you're putting it into a 4 wound model, and that 4 wound model is gonna have like a 5+ invul save, and you can reroll it. So there's all reroll with a CP reroll. I mean, so it can be surprisingly durable, more than people think, and the footprint is huge. And it's also 27 OC, right? Each model is 3 OC in that unit.
Yeah, because they're base 2, and then the ancient gives them another additional 1.
Right.
So
they get plus. I mean, the list of rules on that thing, when you combine it with the rules they're getting from the Lion, you combine it with the rules they're getting from the Dark Shroud, is insane. They can all advance, fall back, shoot, charge, so they can do all the things. They get +1 advance, +1 to charge, so threat range is increased. They get a free heroic intervention for every single squad. Can do it. So people miss out on that. So a lot of times you charge one squad, you're going to be fighting at least 2 of those squads, or maybe the Lion gets in there or something. You know what I mean?
You can heroic intervene with one squad, and the Lion can jump in as well.
Right. Yeah. And they're not.
Maybe you have to do it the other way around, but yeah.
Whatever the order is, yeah. They're not like insanely good in close combat, but they're not bad either. So theoretical damage, right? So a lot of Warhammer I view as a big math problem. Like geometry and algebra mixed together, geometry for your movement and stuff. And if you look at the max theoretical damage you can get out of one of those squads, each squad could in theory do 90 wounds in a turn, in a single turn.
Impressive,
right? They can do 54 from shooting, and whatever the balance is in 42 or whatever it is in close combat, if they maxed everything out. That's not going to happen, but I'm just saying theoretically. But all of that damage is at least strength 5 or higher and at least AP 2 or higher, right? There's a bunch of dev wounds in there. There's the damage output of them is insane. It's just a matter of getting it there, right? But with the speed, you can do it. It's a challenge, but you can definitely do it. So
one of the issues I've always had is they get there, they do the thing, right? And then the clapback just evaporates one of them.
Yeah, you can definitely, but that's when the redundancy comes in, and also the durability. Obviously you're gonna lose these units sometimes. I think War on the Shore I played against the current Dread Heavy Grotmus.
The Solar Spearhead or whatever.
Yeah. And
was it Alex?
Yeah.
Alex Matheson. Yeah, he's good.
He did kill all 3 of them. But the rest of the list that I had, by the time he killed them all, it was already, the game had been settled pretty much. And when they get down to 1 or 2 models, I could run away and hide, and then the Apothecary brings them back, and it's just a real pain in the ass if you don't kill the whole unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's 300 points, which is a decent amount, but it's not a crazy amount. For those 3 squads, it's 900 points on my list. I guess 915 or 920 with the enhancement, something like that.
920 with the enhancement, because the command squads are 120 each, and that Recon Hunter is 140.
Yeah.
So, okay. So one of the things I heard you say about this list is that everybody thinks it's a melee list, but it's actually a shooting list. Can you go more into how you maneuver to set up the shooting with the Black Knights?
Yeah. Well, so this thing just absolutely eats vehicles and monsters alive, because in close combat you have the anti-vehicle anti-monster 4+, but really what that's doing is primarily polishing off those units, right? But it also means you're a threat to everything, right? So those dreadnoughts, he had to be aware that if he's in combat with these guys, even though they're only strength 5, they can put mortal wounds on him very easily, you know. But
Yeah.
the shooting is your hammer, and that's really where the storm speeders come in. And primarily, those things are just so good because of that +1 to wound. So with 2 of those +1 to wound buffs, and if he has a character or not a character, I can also get +1 wound on another unit from the strat. But pretty much that +1 to wound from the storm speeder on 2 different units means at worst I'm wounding on 4s with those plasma shots, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's rough.
At worst, into anything. It doesn't matter what it is. At worst, it's going to be on 4s, and it's all going to be AP 3/2 damage, and it's 27 shots if I get them in range.
When you get everything within 9 inches.
Yeah, which is not that hard with the speed, right? Even if you don't get everything, but fairly often you don't even need a whole unit to go into a vehicle to kill them with those kind of stats, right?
And
even
and
into a Land Raider, I played against Kaleo he had a Land Raider
Redeemer,
Redeemer.
Yeah, the Redeemer one, yeah.
And I one round of shooting from one unit put it at 1 wound.
And then you charge it, and you've got the ability to put out,
easily.
like that's 8 models with anti-vehicle, anti-monster 4-up devastating wound weapons.
Yeah,
right? So it's like probably on average 10 to 12 dev wounds.
Yeah, and they're doing and if they don't, it's a -2 AP wound still, right? If they're not getting the and then on the champion you don't have the dev, but you do get the 2 wounds, higher AP. Oh, it's the same AP actually.
It's AP2, yeah.
But you hit on 2s on that one as well. So, and that's not even taking into account one unit's going to have oath armor, right? So I think a lot of it comes down to the meta. Like this list, which does struggle and would struggle into hordes, okay, but you just don't see them right now, right? It's great into MSU because if you got a bunch of little piddly units, I'll split fire my bike squad 3 or 4 ways and delete and or almost delete 2 or 3 little MSU squads. It's great into elite infantry, right?
Right. Yeah.
They're probably gonna be led by characters, so you can get +1 to wound. And so you're gonna wound them on 2s with shooting. They're gonna be AP3.
Yeah, and even if you don't, you're hitting them with strength 8. So really a lot of it's about knowing when to go in, when to get close, and when not to. Because you can pretty much maintain with your speed, you can make a line 18 inches away from something and just take 2 shots per model, and then if it's a close combat unit, they got to cover 18 inches and they just got shot by a bunch of plasma, right? And then they still have to go into a unit that's durable and pretty good itself in close combat, so it's no slouch in close combat. So playing against like close combat lists that are not hordes, like the biggest pain in the ass games I played were against Amory's orcs. Okay?
Yeah.
Where it's just like everything is, T5 or better, so I'm wounding on 3s at best most of the time, and he's got it, and they've got Filma pains all over the place, and he's got tons of them, so he doesn't really care if I kill 12 or 15 out of a squad in a given turn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it does have weaknesses, but right now with the way the meta is, it's just everyone's so focused on vehicles and monsters for good reason, because high toughness is really king right now. But it also has its own form of durability because of everything's T5 or higher. Everything has an invul save. Everything's fast, and I'm not going to make it. I think that's the hardest part to learn to do with this kind of list, is to know when to engage and how to engage things without getting blasted back yourself. So the other thing that's real tricksy is the redeploy, right? The redeploy strat.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times I'll end up at some point, usually around turn 2 or 3, you end up splitting your forces. You can't maintain all 3 squads within that 6-inch bubble of the lion.
Or the line.
Dark Shroud
Okay.
and the line, both of them, right? Depending on the matchup, but both of them. Usually, a Dark Shroud dies early unless someone ignores it, but a lot of times they'll target it early. But the big thing is you can pick up that 9-man brick and drop it on the other side of the table within 6 inches of the lion or within 6 inches of whatever, and you can use that to really put them where they need to be late game, right? Or even mid game. I'm always overloading one side. So it's pick your poison. Like if
Gotcha.
I see they have a bunch of fast units on pushed onto one side, I'll overload the other side, but I'll make it look like I'm going down the middle, and then I'll scout over and redeploy another one, right? So I might have half my army on each side, but then by turn 2, the whole army's on the other side of the board, and I'm maintaining that 18-inch gap kind of thing.
Question about that. So the way you just said that sounds like you're looking at maybe using what the redeploy stratagem early to say, hey, if I've got all 3 squads lined up to not reveal the information about where I'm going to go, you can scout where you want to go at the end of their turn, pick up, or maybe like if you go
I go second, I can pick up on
turn
their
1,
turn.
you could redeploy, and then now you can basically shift their side of the board.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and that goes, and then with the one unit, you have one unit on the left, one unit on the right, one unit in the center, right? The unit in the center is your hyper aggressive one, where if you get first turn, you're going to scout up and charge, right? If you don't get that first turn, you scout behind a piece of terrain and lean to one side. Then on their turn, end of their fight phase, I think it is, you pick up the squad that's on whatever side you don't want to be on, pick it up and drop it on the other side, and then all of a sudden you have all 3 of your big hammer squads pushed into one side, which is going to be the opponent's weaker side.
Is that going to work more effectively on a like a short edge to short edge or a long edge to long edge? Because I envision a short edge to short edge map, you're running out of board real space to do that.
It depends on the deployment type, because the limitation is you can't get into their deployment zone, right? So if you're on a short edge, depending on where that deployment zone is, you can still get pretty far up onto that long end, right? Depending on what deployment zone it is.
Yeah, that would actually maybe be better, because that will allow you to deploy far, like closer to them. Whereas on the long edge, you're more out of position if you have to come in on the side of the field.
Exactly, because it's further apart. Yeah. But what you do see more often on those long edge deployments is it's harder to have like a broad front across the whole board. So you'll more often see armies hard deploy to one side or another on those long deployment zones. And then it actually can also become a little bit easier, depending on the matchup, and God, the sight lines now with GW terrain, it's so easy to not, you don't have to be behind a building to be out of line of sight, because there's like 4 other buildings in front of you, right? So the line of sights are so limited that it almost a lot of times forces vehicles and monsters to get up close to you into your face to be able to engage to get the sight lines, and that's great for you, because if it's a vehicle or monster, you want them coming towards you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I played against it was a while back now, and it was a local player, but he was running a Nidzilla list with like 14 monstrous creatures, right? 2 of the Tyrannosaurus or 3 of the Tyrannosaurus, the new big one, I forget what they're called, the new
Norns,
the Norns,
Norn emissary,
yeah, and it was tabled by turn 3. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, that's it. I think if the meta were more hoardy, I would definitely change the list up and probably drop at least one of the Thunder Strikes for the +1 AP, maybe
the hail strike,
or just drop one altogether, because for one Thunder Strike you could almost take 2 squads Outriders, not quite. And I don't like the Calidus because I feel like it's cheating, because I like to play Dark Angels. I just,
So what if you drop that for a scout squad, and then that frees up 30 points to throw around other places?
Maybe another enhancement.
You don't have true uppy downy, but you still have some uppy downy-ish, kind of like with your regular Ravenwing units.
You have uppy downy with the strat, and you're fast enough that, man, it doesn't. You don't necessarily need uppy downy, but yeah, that's definitely. And that was kind of what I was thinking about when I was talking about dropping the Calidus and dropping 1 ATV to take 2 units of Outriders, because
just
but
more utility units, right?
Yeah, and a little bit more like kill their utility units, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on that counter. And also you have something to play the secret mission if you needed to at some point. It's really easy with a redeploy strat to be able to get a troop squad or a battle line unit into their deployment zone now. But most of the time the Lion can do that too. I usually don't lose the Lion, and that's another good thing about this list is he's great, but he's usually low on their list of threats. And so he usually does get there and does get into combat almost every game if there's something there for him to get in combat with.
Do you have any reason or need to switch the Lion's aura away from the Seal of Pain? So like
very rarely
use the +1 to hit.
Yes, well, that's what I'm saying is like occasionally you will, but it's late game, right? Almost always for the first two, and it can be somewhat matchup dependent. Like if you're going to be shooting a bunch of Deathwing Knights, you're not going to be overcharging. You know, and then you
makes sense.
In late game, sometimes that +1 to hit is better too, right? Depending on what you're getting to, or mid game. I shouldn't say late game. It really depends. And also, if you're only going to be getting a single unit with the 4+ Feel No Pain, it really just depends. But if I'm getting at least one unit that Feel No Pain, and I know they're going to be overcharging and shooting, I'm always going to be doing that. Because the other thing that 4+ Feel No Pain does is the main way people are killing the Lion, in my experience, is mortal wounds.
Yeah, as dev wounds and mortal wounds.
Yeah.
Grenades and tank shocks and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. That needs to be his default for his own protection.
Yeah. Yeah. And for his own protection. So I'll do it occasionally, but it's rare. Like I had what was it? I was playing against Eldar, and they were redeploying a Scathatch Wraith Knight.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see one of those in a minute.
Yeah. And they redeployed him within 12 inches of the Lion, so they could shoot him. Didn't do nothing because it bounced off his invul. Yeah. And then thought they were safe because they were gonna use Phantasm or whatever it is that they can run away with. I don't know what the reactive is that they get to run away with.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but they couldn't do it
because they were fade. Yeah,
fire and fade. Maybe that's what. But they couldn't do it because they were within 12 inches of the Calidus, and they only had 1 CP.
Oh,
so
okay.
And then he went in and killed the Wraith Knight in one round of close combat. So
yeah, as one does.
But the problem is, like, I love the Lion, I love the model. Although I'm still using the 4-year-old model, but I just don't think his abilities, unless you're really abusing one of them the way I am, I think that you can do better with his points. You know,
I kind of agree. Like I know, like having him where you can give him an advance to charge or maybe a +1 to wound, that kind of stuff, I really find to be kind of what my play style needs to get out of him. But I have thought about this from look, if I could overcharge with impunity at all points in time, yeah. I mean, so
yeah. I think in Stormlance he's good because again they're doing threat overload where you're like, what are you going to shoot at? You got 3 squads of Deathwing Knights coming at you. You got 1 or 2 units of Inner Circle Companions. And it's like pick your poison. What are you going to go? And that's why I think I'm not going to have the opportunity to try it, but someone needs to try throwing the Plasma Inceptors in there and see if they're good getting the sustained hits and the 4+ Feel No Pain against overheat, right? Because you're not going to lose one most of the time, at least in the first round of shooting. Because you're going to do 3... David, shut up. Sorry. You're going to get 3 mortals. You're going to save at least one of those on a 4-up,
Yeah.
So, and then when they get shot back, that's the first model that dies. And it's not a big deal because they already had wounds on them. So.
What? That's an interesting idea. Yeah. Okay. Bailey, got anything else we want to talk about with this list?
Well, the one question.
Look, it's a good boy.
We got dog sighting, David sighting. Let's go. Look,
There he goes.
He's a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
You grumpy? Yes. He's always late to the barking. Like all the kids start barking, and then 30 seconds or a minute later, he's like, "Wait, what are we doing? Okay, we're barking." So, yeah.
Well, I mean, my one question was if and Aaron kind of got to it, is that if you were going to see this horde meta, because with guard, that's being the new release, that's probably going to become more prevalent.
Interesting.
That what the changes would be, and he kind of went into that with I'm going to drop this and bring in the Outriders and goes, because an Outrider squad will mess up a 10-man guard squad.
Yeah, I would definitely flip the ATVs to the Gatling cannon, because one ATV with a Gatling cannon into a 10-man guard squad can do a lot of damage. So flip the ATVs to Gatling cannon. Flip at least one of the Thunder Strikes. I think you could run with a single Storm Speeder too and get those points into something else. But either way, if you're taking two, definitely flip one into the anti-infantry.
I don't know if I would do it the hail strike there into because all your shooting is AP2, so why not do a hammer strike to strip cover, because that'll be more universally useful.
Yeah, abilities wise, that's true, but the number of
its
shots
own onboard shooting,
its own weapons, and I'd have to play it to figure out. Yeah, abilities wise, I think it's probably better to strip cover, because that's always going to be useful somewhere, and it's easy for the opponent to deny you the ability to use that. It could be easy. They're fast. They're super fast, especially when you can advantage charge with a model that moves 14 inches. But advance and shoot rather. And then the other thing was there anything else? Now, but the other thing you could do if you have Outriders and you dropped like the Calidus or dropped a Thunderstrike, you could easily find the points to get Samuel into there with an Outrider squad.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that. Yeah.
What's your opinion on the bike chaplains for this?
Not great, to be honest with you.
I agree, because I think, I don't know, the anti-vehicle monster kind of obviates the need for it.
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing that makes them good is getting dev wounds, right? Dev wounds on your shooting, great.
Right.
But you're losing a ton of shots if you're not using the command squad, the Deathwing command squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the dev wounds are good, but you don't have any rerolls really on them. So you're gonna get 2 to 4 dev wounds a round, maybe. Maybe you get swinging and get 8 dev wounds or something like that. But you're already AP3, so I don't think they're cheaper. Obviously, you save some points, but I think the trade-off is just not worth it. I think in Stormlance with that enhancement, it's great. It's also worth mentioning that there's 3, but the other 2 enhancements worth mentioning in this are really good too. The
master maneuver for the come in from reserve on
turn 1, or 1 turn early, as though it's 1 turn earlier. So, and because of the way that's worded, I do believe it allows you to what is
ingress?
It? Yeah, rapid ingress.
It's the same thing that the puppy prison does.
Yeah, and then also the one that lets you reroll advances and charges is good too, if you have the points to spare and you just have nothing.
30 points.
No, that's a misprint. So it's actually the one that lets you to come in on turn 1 is 30 points.
That's what it says in the app.
Is it? Maybe they. So I know when they initially released, they screwed up those the naming conventions on them, and I think they got confused on it. So I'd swear the one, because if you look at the original codex, the one that lets you come in on turn 1, I believe, is the one that's 30 points, but I might be wrong. Let me check.
Because I agree that coming in on turn 1 seems like it's worth 30 points, and rerolling advances and charges does not.
It does not. Yeah. So
and then the mastercrafted weapon, which gives you precision, let's just never talk about it again.
Okay,
if it was +1 damage, we'd be cooking.
Mounted Strategist used to be 30 points. Which one is that?
That is the one that is currently 30 points. That's the reroll advance and charge.
Huh.
Mounted Strategist used to be gave you advance and charge. Now it's already have it.
Right. Okay. So that was where if you didn't have Samuel or something like that. But now it's redundant. Yeah, Okay, they need to redo the points for that then. Yeah. So that means the turn coming on turn 1 is only 15 points. That's super good.
That's super good, man. That's what I think we were saying.
Yeah.
Get Shikaldus, get scouts in.
Yeah.
And
so
maybe that gives you the ability to do the thing. I don't know.
I really did want that, because if you have that, that gives you even more ability to avoid taking damage on turn 1, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so much easier to hide 2 of those squads than 3 of those squads.
I agree.
And then, like I said, we didn't get into it too much, but like I specifically put and I would do this no matter what the list was, but I use that Dark Shroud as bait all the time, because players who've been playing for a while know what that does, and when they see this big bike blob clustered around the Dark Shroud, they immediately wanted to delete that.
You have to kill the Dark Shroud, yeah.
And it's surprisingly challenging to kill, because I think it's T8, 10 wounds, but it's always in its own aura, so it's always going to be basically a 2-up with a 5-up invul save.
I think it has its own native invul save, because it
does. Yeah.
It's got a 5-up invul save. So yeah, they are surprisingly durable. Just like the Vengeance has one too.
Yeah.
So
like in multiple games, I put that up as bait, and sometimes it died, sometimes it didn't. And if it does die, it's not that big a deal. Like, it doesn't impact my damage output at all. But usually that thing will survive with like a couple of wounds left, and I don't care, because it's not putting out any damage or anything. And then whatever they moved to kill it dies, right? Because I'll put it in such a way that to get line of sight to it, you have to put something in a bad place, right?
Yeah. Okay, so a couple more questions I just thought of. Do you normally deploy your storm speeders, or do you put one of them in reserve?
I usually always deploy them, because I want the threat turn 1, and I can redeploy it if I want to, because it gets the Ravenwing. Wait, is it mounted only to get to redeploy? I can't remember now. I actually didn't redeploy one of them.
No,
it's
Ravenwing units.
Yeah. So they can redeploy if they want to. They're so fast that I usually don't reserve them, but I definitely would if I saw the need for it. Like if I really thought I needed to deep strike one to get something into a corner to be able to get line of sight to a vehicle to get that +1 to wound, then I would definitely deep strike them situationally. But with the amount of speed they have, they're gonna average what 17.5 inches of movement in the turn.
Yeah, which is
so
silly.
You can usually get where you need to be, and I'll usually have them. And actually, usually more often than not, they're actually my home objective guard.
Okay.
One of them is what I have.
Yeah, because their weapons have such a long range that they can be applying those buffs from if you can get the shooting lane for it. So
right, and all you have to do to get the buff is hit. Right,
you don't even have to wound it. You just have to hit it, and they have a 2-up. They hit on 2s. They blitz skill 2.
And what I'll do is I daisy chain them. Like whatever the first one I'll shoot, whatever the first one's shooting at, the next one will shoot that target and then shoot a random piddly weapon at something else and get a +1 wound against something else. Yeah, and then the bikes will shoot that.
Because they have like storm bolters or something, right? Or,
no, they have the Icarus.
Icarus pods,
which are actually good. And actually, the anti-fly 2+ on the Icarus means that they can damage like Mortarion on 2s and stuff like that. It's pretty hilarious.
It's really good for.
I forgot about
I think the Icarus pods are a great solution for like the jump pack intercessor. Type stuff, because
the 2 damage. Yeah. So they can definitely put in some good work. And most often I'm split firing. I'm putting the big weapons into one thing that I want to kill, and then the Icarus goes into whatever I want to get the buff on the next unit. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So there's a lot of tricks you can do with that, as far as when you have 2 of them. We have 1, but still, sometimes 2 is overkill for sure if you're going in stuff that doesn't have a lot of vehicles and monsters. But
right.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right. Cool. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So, well,
next up is Hobby Challenge, Heath.
Yeah, man. Well, I think we said we were going to do Reavers,
We
I
did.
Ooh, they're good now.
built. Yeah, no, that's why we said we're gonna do Reavers this month. Yeah, I built 5 of them. I haven't painted them yet because I finished painting my entire squad of Stern Guard, as
Nice.
well as painting the flag on a command squad.
Sweet.
Very
So now
pertinent.
I've got two.
Very
Now I've
pertinent.
got 2 command squads because I'm trying to, and I've got another box or 2 of Black Knights up in the locker. So,
Reavers were so bad for so long that all my scout squads are Reavers.
Nice.
I actually had a pretty good luck. I played Stormlance, and I put a unit of 5 Reavers in a impulsor because they give it scout, right? And so then they can zoop, go up, and then they can move, they can advance, they can jump out, and then apply that OCD buff to something, right? Which is pretty good.
Amazingly good with that lieutenant, the Reaver lieutenant.
Yeah, that's what one of our regular listeners.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah, you drop in, you can still D6 move and then charge after that. So into like an objective holding unit or a backline unit. It's
yeah, that's what Alan said.
Denying objectives and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
AP1 pistols, cheap. Knives, and precision.
Everything's got precision. Yeah. Cheap.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot rescue. It wasn't an eBay purchase. It was just something I bought from an old Space Marine player that was going to something else. So like there's some nubs and things on mine that I'm not proud of, but I tried to fix them. I realized as I was painting them, I didn't get all of them. And then there were 6 where he'd taken the intercessor body and made like an extra one with some bits. But I'll just show off a couple of them here. I got the pictures that we'll put up post production, but just kind of going with my usual color set, and I knocked them out pretty fast, in my opinion, because when you're used to painting historicals like I've been for the last couple of years, and you're painting like batch painting 20, 30-man blobs or 12-man horse units at once, and you're painting all the hooves and you're painting all the harnesses and things, and you get a Space Marine and there's only 5 of them. You're like, do. Oh man, these are easy. This is fast. Look at that. So I felt like I got them done pretty fast. I also had to do some repairs. Like, I fixed Azrael, so he's back to his glory because he got beat up on the way to Hawaii. And then I had to, one thing I tried to do, I couldn't get it to work. I tried to pin his banner back on with a piece of wire, but the drill kept slipping out, so I just had to glue it on there and hope for the best. I did successfully pin the mace back on this Macy boy, Deathwing Knight. So that is something that's a lot easier, and it is way, way more durable. Like I can feel it. Just
pins are the way to go if you can. Yeah.
Do you guys got one of these bad boys?
I don't think I have that specific one. I have
definitely a good solid $10 to $20 investment. It's a drill pen.
So I have this.
Yeah,
it doesn't look as fancy as yours, but yeah, it's just got a little USB charge, and then
definitely makes.
And then you get the traditional pin device.
Yeah, I have the army painter one. That's what I've been using.
You can adjust the RPMs on them, so it means you don't have to apply pressure, as much. You can just
mine doesn't do that. That's cool. Yeah. So, Aaron, you have anything you want to show off the paint on?
This is the only thing that I've been doing recently.
Nice.
You see that's a decal on his cape there that I put on. So
now I have been to Aaron's his Beats lab, and he is a incredible painter. Like, I look at your Phobos librarian, and that dude is gorgeous, beautiful shading and fades. Anyway, so
yeah
I remember.
I've also recently done. I guess it was a little longer ago, but these guys, the
inner circle. Look at them. Yeah.
There we go. That's what's up.
I have 3 custom ones I gotta paint up. They're prime, but I gotta paint them still.
Trick is to just make 6 out of every box because you got enough swords to do it. So
that's what I did. Yep, I grabbed some extra intercessor bodies and heads hooded heads left over from upgrade kits, and just took all the arms and did the business.
Yep, stern guard work great too. If you got plastic stern guard.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been thinking about these guys.
For sure. Oh, those would be great. Yeah, I didn't think of that.
I got them, to be honest, mostly for bits. Because like my Azrael I have a converted Azrael that's out of the Helbrecht model, and he uses this gun right here as his combi weapon. And it's one of the favorite models I've ever made. Anyway, so
that's good. All right, so going forward, what do we want to do, Heath, for next month?
good
Talking
question.
about building stuff, painting stuff.
I don't know, man. Seems like the theme should keep on being Ravenwing if that's a thing we can do.
Yeah, I got an Outrider I got to paint over here.
Yeah, I've got more. I've got some more Ravenwing stuff I can do.
I got an Invader. I got
Cool.
this Invader that needs to get painted.
Everyone needs at least one Storm Speeder magnetized.
I've got 2 of them, so
I got 2.
Yeah,
I got that.
I actually got a box for a third one, but yeah.
So do I. I had to take the bits out of it to make bits for another one because I lost them at Adepticon a few years ago.
All right.
It's like the important bit.
Let's do Ravenwing stuff.
All right, let's do it. All right, we got a month to do some Ravenwing stuff, which by the next episode we could show off to each other in person, because by the time we get around doing the next episode, potentially it will be after Adepticon, where we'll be there.
So it'll be because Adepticon is in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks from now it'll be Adepticon. So speaking of which, I have to buy my plane tickets. I haven't bought my plane tickets yet. Okay.
Oh boy.
All right. So community interactions.
Yep. So Gerard's got my guys, Azrael with Stern Guard, either variety. You'll thank me. All right. So he's a big fan of Azrael with Stern Guard. He also commented, paint the flags, Bailey. So I'm assuming that's encouragement to do what Heath has done.
Yep.
And to be more like Aaron and have multiple command squads. I will see what I can do about that, because you can't. The squads are out of stock right now, so I got to go find them.
Yeah. What I did with this one, I just dry brushed the crap out of it, and then used some contrast over it, and it actually it came out really So I used like 2 different colors of contrast yellow to get the sun and the shade, and then black or green for the snake, and some bone for the robe. And simple, and it worked out really well.
My secret to easy Ravenwing mass production is this
Dark Neutral
right
Gray?
here.
No?
Nope. Drakenhof Nightshade.
Okay.
Drakenhof.
You just
dark blue,
black, then dry brush with some kind of a like Administratum gray if you're talking GW colors, and then throw the entire model Drakenhof Nightshade. And there you go. That's your entire black with all your highlights and shading you're going to need. And then you do all your details over the top of it.
Might have to check that out next one I build.
60, 70, I don't know how many. God, tons. So
yeah, I've got
I like that
airbrush workup that I usually do, but it takes a bit of time. So, and I do like that kind of purplish blue that the Drakenhof gives you.
Yeah, especially over gray, it looks like black highlights, basically, right?
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So Alan has a comment where he says, one, he's upset that we didn't read his list name out. Sorry, mate.
Yes, I saw it. We apologize.
Is that the guy who makes wacky list names because he wants to force people to read them out?
No, that's Toby.
Okay, that's Toby. Yeah,
we've also had on.
Was Alan the one who did that extremely long form haiku as his name?
That was not. Alan is a unrepentant Deathwing player, right? So, yeah, all right. So he's talking in this comment about the Reavers with the Phobos Lieutenant combo, which we did discuss. Yeah, that's great. Super can be into it. And then also lamenting on the quality of Assault Terminators these days. Yeah, is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
And then
real quick in the comments, I put the link to that Warhammer math.
Yeah, we're gonna. Yep.
You don't have to do this episode, but maybe that'll be something you could check out. And to summarize, swords are probably better than maces.
Interesting.
After War on the Shore, I would not be surprised that conclusion mathematically works out.
Even without the chaplain, basically, and this is what the math says. He simulates it 1,000,000 times. So.
Interesting. Because I always run 1 and 1 because I have that one unit of swords that I love, just the way the models are.
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
And I don't know, I've got 3 squads of maces, and they're in my box right now, but I haven't been able to play it yet because it's just life stuff. But I don't know. I'm gonna go take a look at that. You got me curious.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. And then Alan also says he can see the strength in Librarius, but it's a large investment in characters. And having tried it, the doctrine choice is hugely important. And I got it very wrong. It's high skill, high practice detachment. For sure. So, and that's fair. And I mean, Rob did very well at his 2 events with it. So he's got the reps in, and the army looks very good. And he's got the matchups. It's with anything, and that's where it's like I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole because Heath knows I don't play very much.
I think, like you were saying, Aaron, this is like the thing about Librarius Conclave is it gives you an asymmetrical information advantage. No one knows what it does. No one knows how to play against it. And if you've got the reps, then they're fighting blind, and you've got an advantage there.
Yeah, that was my one loss in the event, and it came down to me not knowing well what it did, and B, he just you can just make all your 4+ symbol saves, and sometimes just
also that's a thing that we've known Rob Memorial is capable of doing, is just passing 60 out of 80 4-up invul saves on demand. So
I'm Jeff Robinson used to do that to me with Custodes all the time. So
rip. There you go. I'm trying.
That's also something I can't do. So I'm not playing that list.
Yeah, I'm trying to work with Rob to figure out a time that we could get him on to talk about how that list plays. So I know, like, maybe the iron is not quite as hot as it was right after LVO, but that's the life we live. So we'll keep trying to work on bringing on getting that content for you. So cool.
Well, and so this one, Aaron, we'd like to thank you for coming on. Because it's not easy. It's we're almost 2 hours into your day, and I know you've got puppers and a significant other, and it's not easy to find that kind of time. I know it takes Heath and I. We struggle sometimes to find 2 hours in 1 month to sit and talk. Just the 2 of us, so to get a third. So we really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate it. I was telling Heath, some of the stuff of like where we rode into town coming back together, and I was like, dude, it was cool. It's just like any other time we've talked with people that have played a lot of tournaments. You look at their list, you think you know what it does, then you actually let them start talking about it, then you realize, oh no, we had no idea, we got it completely wrong. This is what it actually does, and that's why we were really excited that you could come on and really get into the meat of what your list does.
Yeah, and I don't get me wrong, I love the usual list too. It's just again, it's also an information advantage, and it's enjoyable. It's my style of play. You know what I mean? One way or another, my games are over fast. you know?
Fair enough.
We love it.
Cool.
We love it. Awesome. So, you're all good, Heath?
Yep.
All right. So, and you're good, Aaron? You've got everything off your chest for this month? Excellent. So we'd like to thank you all for listening to this month's episode of the Path to Redemption, the Warhammer 40,000 Dark Angels podcast. Our next episode will come out in probably around April.
After Adepticon.
After Adepticon, because we're going to get some reps in. I am taking my army. We're going to get some games in. I'm going to play Joe. I don't know if Joe knows that yet, but I'm going to finally play Joe.
We'll see if we can get it done.
That's going to happen. So please subscribe, like, and comment below if you're watching us on YouTube or your preferred listening a podcast service, so you can find out how that game with Joe went. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Purple Planet for the use of their music, because we haven't switched over yet, which we apologize. I know we hyped up in the last episode, getting some new look, new sound. I'm still in process of working with that, but we'll get that figured out. And so until next time, I'm Bailey from Dankless Wargaming.
This is Steve with Team Table Hawaii.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
Stay loyal, Angels.